Yeah, I just unmuted you on your the meetings there.
No, you're all good.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can literally hear when this thing.
I'll just give you the thumbs up and we'll get started because then I have to get a bit coordinated. Then you can start.
Yeah, so you just,
Yeah. Thumbs up. Yeah.
You're cute. You're so proud. But I just was getting stuff.
That is, yeah. No, I think that's because I think so there's the hearing public. I see.
Okay, got it.
it's luck of the draw, go in front of the wrong person and somehow they had a bad day.
We want to follow the heads.
Yeah.
I told them at the just
Okay,
people back here.
yeah, perfect.
Ready? Gang. Well, we'll get started here. Thanks for everyone that's showing up tonight. This is a great turnout. This is going to be exciting. We're going to hear to talk about the north and south pools of the Superior. We'll get started with introductions here. I'm Jason Ringel, the Barker Rinker CCAT principal. We also have Corey, project manager from our office, and Mary as well, and then Doug Whitaker from Water Technology. Hello. So we're the consulting team that's kind of looking at the assessment. We've done an assessment of both pools already, so we'll get into some of that information and just kind of talk about the process and then So we've got about a 15-20 minute presentation here that we'll go through some things, and then we'll get back out in the main room here and do some voting and some activities. So it should be a lot of fun. Really what we're looking at is we see you all as one team. We see you as part of our team within this effort here. We want to make sure that we're listening and we hear everyone's comments and ideas and thoughts and suggestions here, because that just makes the project and these pools much more successful. So, we've got a town of Superior team, we've got the town itself, and you, the public at large. We really want to hear from everybody. So we've got a few data points we're going to go through. We're going to have a kind of a national slide tour. We're going to show some what-if scenarios. We're going to do some voting and ask you guys comments about hopes and dreams for these pools, as well as fears and concerns. There's one station out there with 2 of the easels with those images on both sides. So we'll have some stickies that we'll give you guys to write in that information. We'll also have some questions that we want you to kind of give us some answers on the stickies. And then you get to vote on the activities and amenities by using dots. Get your top 6 favorite votes for that portion of it. And then the other thing that's starting up, when we get to the end of the presentation, the town has already started up an online survey, so you can get the QR code and provide your answers to that survey. And if you come across anybody that is not here, you want them to be here, let them know about this, because they can still go on and do the online survey component. So really what we want to try and do is kind of look at this as a few data points. The online survey, this meeting tonight, and then you're voting all the activities. So once we kind of do all these, gathering this information, we're going to synthesize and kind of find the common goals and aims along the way. We're kind of in this first phase right now, the assessment and community engagement component of it all. We've already assessed both pools, as mentioned a little bit ago, the mechanical system, the pools, the buildings themselves of both facilities. Now we're really trying to determine what the scope of work is and what the program is. What are we going to do with these facilities? What are the top needs and wants? And that's what tonight's all about. Once we kind of get that developed, we'll put up a cost estimate of what those things might cost. And we'll start to develop those designs and document that, and look at going into construction documents, most components, looking at trying to wrap up this aspect of it by the end of the summer so construction can start this fall. What we like to do is we like to talk about a proven process, which really means having a balanced program, budget, and schedule. If any of those are out of whack or one's bigger than the other, we have to come back and recalibrate things to make sure it all fits and works together, because otherwise it's going to be a challenge trying to get it all to come together for the most part. And then we always want to think about the operational component of these things. What can we do to make things operations easier and more efficient and effective for staff and running these pools as well? In terms of the project schedule, as I mentioned, we're in this assessment and schematic design phase right now, trying to figure out what the goals are and what the priorities are, what the wishes, needs. We're going to have a couple of client workshops. So this is the one public workshop we're having right now. We'll have another one in a few weeks to give you an update of what the results of the public data gathering was, what that resulted in, and what kind of the top priorities are of both facilities. And we'll move into design, development, construction documents. And again, looking at starting construction on that in the North Pool, I should say, this fall. That's what we're shooting for. In terms of the program, again, we're here to develop that tonight. We're looking at, we have assessed the facility. We've got some information we'll give you guys there. I'm sure a lot of you know this, how they're working. We want to identify the level of service goals as well as system-wide gaps, right? If there's, as you probably know, if you guys use both pools, the North Pool is a little bit smaller, so a little bit more site constraints. We can't do a lot there, but there's some things we can do. But the South Pool has a little bit more room that we could do possibly some things. So that's where we're trying to balance out the system, not do everything in one spot, and not the other. We want them to have equal opportunities and components there. And really, we want to think about, there's some things that we're going to repair, there's some things we're going to renovate, and there's some things we're going to replace. The pool mechanical system, we're probably going to replace it because it's old and outdated and just not holding up that well anymore. But there's other places that we can stretch our dollar and try and do more repairs and renovations of it all. So again, it just depends on what the needs and the wants are and the priorities. I'm going to hand it over here to Mary, and she'll give us kind of a lowdown of the pool assessments.
So you might have seen us all out there about a month ago. We had our entire team out of both pools so that we could really get our eyes on both facilities as they are now. So we had our entire consultant team with us too that supports us on these projects. We had our mechanical engineer, civil engineer, electrical engineer, structural engineers, so that we get everyone's expertise just on these existing facilities. So high summary of the North Pool. Structurally, it's in really great shape. We don't have any major concerns with the structure. The building envelope is in good shape considering its age too. It's been a really well-maintained facility. It's very clean. I think the Superior staff has done a really great job maintaining these pools, considering they're 25 years old. So no serious issues with like leaks in the roof or anything like that. The stone and stucco don't have major cracks. We do know there's just deficiencies in terms of the program that both the staff and the residents would really like to see and have there. So we know that at the North Pool, there's a lack of lifeguard space, like for them to take their breaks. The staff needs more area. There's a lack of storage spaces. The locker rooms could use some updating for sure, like some nicer showers that people would actually want to use. And then for the pool itself, you know, we've also met with the swim team and other aquatic user groups to get their input on the pool itself. The mechanical system for the pool needs an update. It's old and Doug's more of an expert at this, but we're looking at like filtration systems being replaced. The pool lining itself needs a lot of repair. So demolishing that and redoing it. And then, you know, there's the deck itself. There's some areas where maybe the concrete has settled a little bit, but generally it's in pretty good shape. And we just know that like markings and painting and signage and stuff around the pool needs to be updated and cleaned up. So that's really kind of also just looking at meeting current codes. With a renovation, we would be looking at updating plumbing fixtures so that they're at the right like water saving code requirements, and your light fixtures, replacing everything, both interior, exterior, and the underwater lights in the pool with LED fixtures, very energy efficient, and just generally would give you a more modern, updated look too.
I think one of the other things is the children's pool needs to really be updated. It's kind of a little tired, and needs some repair. So those are the things that we want to get your input to understand what the community would like and support.
And for the South Pool assessment, generally, it's pretty similar. The structure of the building is in great shape. There's no serious concerns with cracks or leaks or anything. It's also in great shape and been very well maintained. Again, lacking in this facility, we know there'd like to be better, more efficient kind of staff space and storage spaces. You know, chemical storage rooms for the pool chemicals. We need to address that. And the mechanical room there for all the pool equipment is just really undersized. Everything is very tight in there. And we're looking at replacing a lot of that pool equipment at this pool as well. In terms of the aquatic features, we're going to be looking at those, and that's also some input we'd love from you all. You know, removing possibly that mushroom fountain and the slide, and maybe doing a new, nicer slide. Other features that, you know, when you all weigh in, we'll see kind of what you guys would like to do there, and we can replace some of those features. Same thing with the wading pool at this location as well. Like looking at what could we do in that space instead of having a wading pool. We're looking at replacing with splash pads, or again, anything that you guys tell us you want.
Okay. So as Mary mentioned, some of the kind of the high portions here, the big takeaways, the pool shells on both facilities need some work and being addressed. The parking lots, there's some accessibility stalls that don't quite meet accessibility. The locker and staff areas was a place that we're looking at really, and storage, renovating those to get more space there. And then really, again, replacing the pool, possibly the pool skimmers, the pool mechanical equipment, maybe the wading pool, or doing something different with that aspect, that amenity. Some of the doors and the casework and those kind of components inside are getting a little overused and could use some replacement as well. So those are kind of the highlights. Going from there, we're going to dive into some aquatic trends. I'll hand this over to Doug.
Okay, one of the things that are really fun to do in pools, you know, especially a pool, is to have aquatic fitness in the pool, doing water exercise, you know, that appeals to the kids of all ages and abilities. And it really makes sure, you know, the pool have a much better user perspective, because it's not just for the younger children, it's really for all of us. The next kind of trend that we're seeing is, you know, looking at how to create this challenge environment, you know, having fun things to do in the pool that is kind of an active skill-based activity, whether it's rivets or type of ninja crossing. These are the types of things that, you know, are really fun to be able to come into the pool, and you can raise them up and still do lap swimming and things of that nature. Some of the other things that are kind of fun to do, especially if you have some deeper water, are some of the slack lines and climbing walls. You know, our pools, none of our pools are really that deep, so we probably do some like bouldering walls as opposed to a big tall climbing walls, excuse me. Then the other things is, you know, looking how we can, you know, have fun, interactive play features. One of the things that, you know, whether they're the canoe battleship where you're, you know, splashing water, throwing buckets of water in there, kind of that interactive thing, or even having on a water slide. If we place the water slide on South Pool, maybe we can put a timing system in there. And that creates that really fun, interactive challenge because, you know, I go down it, you know, I'm gonna get 4.6 seconds. What about Mary? She's gonna try to get 3.6 seconds. And, you know, you get that whole family fun that, you know, keeps the attraction fresh and fun for a longer period of time. And the other thing is, you know, looking at how we can take an existing facility and maybe add different features to it, like dive-in movies and things of that nature that kind of, you know, expand the time period that people can use the pool, but still be respectful of the neighborhood. And then bringing in games, you know, things like water basketball is really popular in these pools. You know, especially, you know, either pool, whether it's north or south, that have water basketball, or even kind of the smaller zip lines of zip and splash type of a thing. You know, it's really a fun activity. The next ones are kind of showing different types of play features. Now, I don't think we're looking at putting a big, huge play feature at North, just because, you know, that has a lot of lappability and more programming, but it could maybe something could be put in a splash pad area or something of that nature, or other types of activities. I think the next slide talks about water slides that have runouts, as opposed to one of the things at the South Pool, the slide comes into the pool. And what if we took it and put the slide to the exterior? So you actually have a run out, which is really a deceleration lane. And now you activate more of that play zone in the pool. You have a bigger pool because now you're taking the water slide out from the, you know, impacting that zone. And so, you know, looking at how we make this specifically superior, you know, using some thematic ideas that you guys will help bring to the table to kind of make this your own pool, and that, you know, doesn't cost a lot of money. It does cost some money, but again, there's a lot of public pride here in Superior, and we want to make sure that whatever we do, that we're enhancing the user experience over time and then reinforcing the culture of the community.
Yep, and now we get to being community focused. So as part of BRS's kind of like mantra when it comes to these projects is that we want to hear from you all. So at the end of this presentation, we are going to have some activities that we will kind of explain. But what we're trying to understand is like what makes Superior unique, what's the character of the town, the attitude, and the identity. We also kind of want to know like what you think of the pools. Like, does the North Pool have a different character versus the South Pool? What's the attitude? What's the identity? Because they are, while they are in Superior proper, they are kind of spaced far apart and in two different areas. So we're just trying to get your feedback. And our biggest thing from this is that we just want to know the people, the place, and the pace. So like who you are, what you like, what you do to live, work, and play in Superior, and then also kind of like what experiences you're looking for at these two facilities. Now we do have some posters out there that will kind of go through on this, but we want to know what your hopes and dreams are for the North and South Pool, but we also want to know your fears and concerns. Another activity that we'll play is what we call the 5 questions. So we'll give you Post-it notes. Each question has its own board out in the main room, and then we kind of just want you to respond to it and just throw it on the board so we can get to know kind of what Superior is like in your eyes, so we can understand. Even though we live in the Denver area, we aren't up in Superior all the time, so we want this community to tell us who you are and how you want to be seen. And just to note that we are not building a better pool, we're building a better community. And so as Jordan said, like we really want you all to participate in this. And then if, you know, anybody who isn't here at this meeting, share this, tell them about the survey. And speaking of the survey, it went live today. It is going to be closing in 2 weeks. So you have until April 30th, and there is a QR code for you guys to scan to access. One of the exercises we're going to play out there is the ACE program exercise. Now, this is the one where you have the fun 5 dots. Now, you are limited to 6. So you need to prioritize what you all want based on your individual beliefs. So ACE is the activity, the capacity, and the experience that you want to see at these pools. The ACE boards are just collectively for everything. So you're not voting for north or south. And then we also have another board up there that you can kind of write anything that you don't see, any amenities that you see on other pools, any activities at other pools and other facilities that you would like to see here in Superior. And for next steps, kind of you all will go out there, play with the activities, and then we'll collect all the feedback from the workshop tonight. By the 28th, we'll provide an update to the town council. We have another executive team workshop on May 9th, and then the 12th, we'll provide another update to the town council. And here's a QR code for your lovely survey. You all want to scan, hit the links.
So yeah, we'll hand out the dots now for y'all, and we'll just go back, get out to the activities and start voting. We'll have people around each station. So you have any questions or need any input or comments, just feel free to grab one of us as well as a park group.
There are also on the table out there in front of the boards, there are comment cards that look like this. So this is another opportunity for you to just share with us whatever comments you have. And when we say like hopes and dreams, like we mean it, like be creative, put down anything you can think of, or, you know, don't think any idea is too crazy. Just give it to us. We'd love to hear it.
Now's the time to do it.
Now's the time, exactly. So there's one section here asking about project goals. What do you think really would add the greatest value to Superior in this project? Again, there's options here. We can circle your top 5 activities to add to the pool. And then on the back side, it's just any additional comments you want to write. So those are also out there on the table. And we've got pens as well. So
Maybe the park group could stand up so everybody can see them. I think they all have name tags on for the most part, so you should be able to recognize them. But we got
Yeah, real quick, I'm Robert Stevens. I'm the park chair. We're a group of people from the community. We're just volunteers. We're just here helping out tonight. We usually have this as our monthly meeting where we just get together, talk about parks, things that we want to do to make our parks and rec better. So we'll be helping out tonight, helping these folks out tonight, but we're just other people who live in Superior. Can we vote too?
yeah.
You're part of the community, go for it.
yeah, no special treatment.
All right, do we have any kind of questions before we release you all to go play with poster boards?
Have some fun.
Yeah.
Voting on what we like.
What you're looking for and what you really want to see at these pools.
But there's a thing for fears. What's your fears? You know, I mean,
Having water guns, you know, like that kind of thing. And then anything else, like Jordan was saying, there's additional comments. So if there's anything you don't see out there, or if there's concerns outside of the fears and concerns that you kind of absolutely don't want to see, you have plenty of space.
Yeah.
Yes.
Quick question. Living in original town, has the Parks and Rec and your team looked at the demographics of the rapidly changing Superior landscape? You know, original town, there's so much building on families. They're putting in 260 apartment buildings. They're going to put in 50 units for senior housing. Have you taken into consideration all that demographic change that is essentially from the North Pool going north and that whole Northwest Superior?
We've looked at it briefly, the demographics of Superior. We've got a good handle on some of that. It is changing a lot. It's hard to predict what's going to happen in the near future or the future at all for the most part, but we're taking that stuff into consideration for sure. But we'd love to hear more thoughts from you all too. You guys want
reach with all the people that are in town, those of us who are all original town, because that is, the North Pool is that only rec pool center in that whole area, basically. Oh my gosh, from Colton all the way north.
right?
What you're taking into consideration, massive changes.
Yeah, you guys are definitely changing over the years and continue to.
and that's one of the reasons that we're talking about the different types of amenities, but also the activities that can take place in the pools, because that's one of the things that the traditional activities of learn to swim, competition swimming, and just recreation. There's also, there's a huge group that wants to go to the pool and do water fitness and things of that nature, that especially as older kids. It's really fun to do that, and it's a great activity, and it also really inspires a lot of community participation. And that oftentimes takes place at time periods when the pool isn't heavily used. And so there's a huge advantage to looking at those types of activities and also considering the amenities that are going to be offered. So that way you're expanding your season within the season.
And the south pool's not set up for me, like you can have swimming with the south pool.
But if there was a desire to have a competition facility, there is some potential land available there. So that's what this is all about, is getting your input to see what needs to be accomplished, and so that a budget can be established to accomplish that.
And the town can plan for the future of anything that can't be incorporated into this specific project too. So like anything you want, write it down. We have the information, goes to the Parks District. And then we'll have.
And we're here to talk about it, in an individual setting out by the boards and things of that nature.
Yeah, and that's a good point that Corey made, that if your information you give us tonight, maybe it's not something we can accomplish in this particular project, but the town will have all of your information of what your hopes and dreams are. And so maybe in a future project that would be considered. So don't hold back.
Is there an option at the North Pool to add a more child-friendly area there beyond just the 8-inch baby pool in that space? I mean, we don't want to take away the 8-way playground pool, but are you looking at adding an additional pool space in that area? Because right now you can't use that pool if you've got kids that are underage.
So the answer to that question is you're going to help us decide that. Because look at the different types of amenities that, are offering out there, and we'll see how we can bring those into the mix to increase the entertainment value or the watertainment value, which includes water exercise for all the pools. Did that answer your question? Kind of.
Is there a way to target the North Pool? So you said that they're pool not specific, right? So you say you want a diving board, but you're not saying you want a diving board at the North Pool. Is there a way to target which pool we're interested in these amenities and that? Or is that decided later, that the South Pool is going to be the fun pool, the North Pool is going to be the ladder rooms?
So the voting for the activities is all by dots, but we do have the hopes and fears, hopes and dreams and fears and concerns for the North Pool and some for the South Pool. So you can make those distinctions at those boards where you can write them in on a piece of paper. Then like, hey, the North Pool, we'd love to have a diving board. The South Pool, we'd love to have a slide or something of that nature.
Okay. Follow up on that. North Pool, is there room for one of those here water slide? You're talking about for potentially replacing at the South Pool. Is there room to one of those?
Potentially, yeah. Again, that's what we're here to do, is get your input to see what's important to this group, so that we can look at, and again, like every project, there's not an unlimited budget. And like Corey said, what we want to do is get your desires of what you'd like to see these two pools become. And then, there'll be an initial project, and I'm sure there'll be future projects, especially as rapidly as Superior is growing.
But there is certainly, like, the town council and town staff absolutely know the desire to have more like fun aquatic features at the North Pool, and to be able to balance like all the demographics using that pool with the users like the swim team and who are using it for competitions. So we definitely understand we're looking to try to balance that out a little. We're not only going to do what the competitive swimmers want. So it's definitely about, being inclusive. Like, we want to make sure whatever we're doing here is inclusive of all the users.
And really, we want that water filled as much as possible. So it's not just the swimmers, right? It's all you all too. Is like, what would bring you to that pool, and your families and your friends and everything else nature. So it's not just the swimmers, it's the whole community.
These are the houses for the survey too. I think if we're doing dot exercise, we have people write small like N or S or both. That way we at least know that we capture where people are thinking about those things. we are trying to capture that very clearly in the online, because we've heard people drive past one or the other and they have identity, but what meets the needs for each is, we're not gonna create mirrors of the pool to do everything in both locations, we know we can't, but at least we would know what things are really being sought after. And
Yeah, that's great. If you have a preference, just write NRS on this. Love
And there are, for the hopes and dreams boards and peers or concerns, they are separated, North Pool and South Pool. So you can also use that opportunity to like be very clear which one you're talking about.
Yeah. And then all the information we get from this workshop will be presented at the next public workshop. So you'll see kind of the ranked list on like who voted most for what, and then you can like talk to people to switch their changes.
The North Pole versus the South Pole.
Let's go. For it.
Sure.
Yeah.
North Pool users,
Everybody.
South Pool users.
So a lot of your thoughts. Yeah.
I guess who uses both pools?
I have a follow-up question during the subject that I believe there's public transportation to the North Pole, if I'm not correct, through RTD. Or there's a bus route one that drops off close to the pool.
Yes.
Have they ever thought of any plans for transportation to the South Pole? Maybe like shuttle that runs, a couple times a day.
I think there's a program that, no, but I love that idea, like, we can use once, right? Yeah, you can call.
Yeah, so that was definitely optional for senior housing, I imagine. One field around to the South Pole. So
That
that's.
one's up the hill, it's hard to.
Yeah, so just to make sure we get that kind of recorded as a want, make sure you put it on your Post-it note and throw it on what you want for which pool access wise, just so we have that data to share with the district.
So Mark, it looked like in your presentation, you had mentioned or considering winterizing for buildings. Does that mean year-round pool, or is that just to better maintain the buildings during the winter?
It's 3 seasons.
Either or both.
Yeah, it's something we're looking at. Yep. Just understanding the desire from the town of extending it in the spring and fall seasons and keeping at least one of the pools open longer. Yep.
Whole year.
Right on sticky.
Are they currently what?
Yes.
Yeah.
But not for winter use.
Yes, I mean, they're over the summertime use, they're, and maybe a little extension, but to heat it for, let's say, just not including, December, January and February, the heaters aren't large enough. And there's a lot of other mitigating circumstances, it's not the heaters, it's how to provide snow melt systems so you don't have slippery decks and the insulation in the building, there's all sorts of things that impact that decision.
Could you guys for the group just reiterate the anticipated construction schedule for both pools again, just so we're clear?
Yeah, for the North Pool, we're anticipating construction starting this fall and wrapping up by Memorial Day week and hopefully mid-May roughly. So let's get the pool filled up, get staffing ready to roll and get operations up and running. For the South Pool, that'll probably be, we haven't exactly pinned down the schedule for construction on that yet. We're kind of see how the engagement goes and what portions go to the South North Pool, which program things in the boats. And then compared to the South Pool. So it just kind of depends on how much work there is at the South Pool. Yes.
It's probably not possible on South, but on North, is there any possibility of a dome or a winterized covering to make it a little bit more year round or a little during the season? Like temporary, like the inflatables are out for like football fields, is that possible on a pool type structure?
That is possible. It just comes down to budget and cost, right? There's a lot of different systems out there, like you mentioned, the air bubbles, there's those out there. There's also some movable systems that you get on as well. So there's a lot of options, but it just depends on the cost of it and whatever you vote for again.
Yeah. And then is the city's, I guess, in the past couple of years, there's been issues staffing, right? So if you build these great pools and then we can't find lifeguards, what happens? Or how is that being, how are you proactive about knowing the staff to increase the level of people using the pools?
Well, I think the good news is, I think all their staff's already on board already for this season for both pools. Katie already got that conflict. Everything on top of that. So, time will tell, right? It's hard to tell, but really, I think you got a great staff that's really already proactive on top of it for the most part. I don't know if you want to add anything, Katie.
Well, the other thing is, the more popular you make a pool, the more popular the destination is for the people that can staff it. So those are kind of a never ending cycle.
All right, we'll go vote. We'll get some stickies.
So there's
Buffer in there for the building of the pool, like, I know that's a really